Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Magsayo versus Jorge Suela fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video. And this is another Patreon requested video, so thank you very much for all the members on the Patreon at the moment. And if you want to join and request any sort of prediction video of any combat sporting fight around at the moment, feel free to join and request it. Again, it really supports the channel, and thank you very much. And so to get into this, obviously this is amongst plenty of predictions in which I've pretty much gone through the entirety of the Pacquiao versus Barrios card, and it's another great fight on this card. I've touched upon in my previous videos just how silently kind of stacked this card is. Fights like this just aren't really being mentioned enough, and I think they're all really entertaining matchups, and hopefully all of these fights have their styles gel to make really good fights. And I think, yes, perhaps the main event in Pacquiao Barrios isn't exactly what boxing fans want, but I hope that the undercard lives up to the kind of true boxing fans' expectations, because like I say, I think there really is some good talent and good fights on this undercard. And there is nothing not to say that's good realistically about Magsayo in the way of entertainment wise. I feel like he brings nothing but entertainment, Magsayo, and I feel like he is going to again live up to that. Of course, he is former WBC World Featherweight Champion. He beat Alan Russell Jr. back a few years ago now, and he, of course, if you don't know Russell Jr., he was, a decent champion. He didn't go on to do anything too crazy. I mean, he took Lomachenko to a majority decision when Lomachenko, I think that was in his third fight or something. So, he's not a bad fighter. He was in a really good position in his career at that point, and I think he's trying to make a return. I don't think he's fought since his Magsayo loss, but like I say, I feel like he's trying to make a return now this year. But like I say, that was a very good victory for Magsayo, a dominating one, and when he became, of course, a world champion. After that, he went on to lose, and he lost twice against arguably two elite fighters and two fighters in the best points in their careers. I mean, he lost to Ray Vargas, who he did drop in that fight, and it was a very close split decision in which, again, you can look either way. Yes, the knockdown was, a little bit perhaps controversial. It was a bit of a shove slash knockdown, but like I say, it was still called a knockdown, and he definitely did hurt Vargas a lot in that fight. And Figueroa again was a very good fight where Magsayo started well and picked up a few rounds and then started to fade off. That was always seemingly his kryptonite, I suppose, to an extent, where he would start off very well and then seem to fade off in the high pace, high output type of fights. And he starts so excitingly, it is difficult for any fighter to be able to maintain that. And obviously since then he's jumped up to super featherweight and seemingly is gotten comfortable now. He's had three fights in super featherweight, two of them being knockouts against lower level opposition. The knockouts were, so it showcased that he is a world level type of fighter, because whenever he has dropped down in the level of opposition, he's always been able to go out there and deliver a knockout. And I mean, if you're looking for a good entertaining fight and a good knockout to watch, you can go back and watch the Magsayo versus Seja fight from a few years ago, just before he became world champion. I think one of the first fights he had in America and on PBC, and it was a very entertaining fight. Magsayo dropped Seja early, then he got dropped himself and looked kind of out of it. Then Seja started to come on, then Magsayo flipped it and knocked him out quite brutally. And like I say, it was a very good fight. And so again, that's just for the fans if you're wanting to watch a good fight there. But like I say, jumped up to super featherweights, has gotten comfortable now and gotten a few wins under his record, and he's kind of a bit of a protege to an extent of Manny Pacquiao. I know that they've spoke seemingly a few times and worked together a few times along in Magsayo's career, and has been built up with him and helped him build up and things like that. And there was seemingly a very big level of Magsayo who wanted to fight on this card. He was very keen to fight on this card. He really wanted to go out there and make a statement, on an undercard of Manny Pacquiao. It was definitely a dream of his, and he's definitely gone on to say that in interviews as well, how much of a dream it is to be able to fight on a Manny Pacquiao undercard. And so realistically, I suppose in that aspect, there is no surprise to see him on this card. I feel like there was probably the case for quite a few fighters on this card kind of queuing up to an extent to be on it due to Pacquiao being on it. But for Mata, he's had quite a lot of fights for his age. I believe he's only 24 years old, and I don't know a tremendous amount about him. I've watched his last fight, and I saw that he got knocked out previously against Rocky Hernandez, who, of course, is at the highs of the world kind of rankings at the moment. And Mate has only had one loss elsewhere, and that was a close fight when he took a step up as well. But like I say, he's on a good winning run, and he's been out there getting some good performances out in Mexico. This is his first time fighting outside of Mexico, so again, that's going to come with its own challenges. But at the same time, maybe there is only limited kind of footage to an extent for Magsayo to be able to study. But again, like I say, he's fought the highs of levels, been able to, stand there a little bit, but of course has fallen short on occasion, like I say, talking about the Rocky Hernandez fight, seemingly before his decline, because I feel like Hernandez, yes, is still winning, but isn't fighting as good as what he once was. But like I say, for Mate, he's still very young, so seemingly he still will be able to rebuild even if he does lose this fight. But of course, he's going to be wanting to cause the upset and to change his career around. For Magsayo as a fighter, he's definitely a power puncher. He has the Filipino power punching prowess, I suppose is the way to put it. He is known for that, and he is definitely going to showcase that on Saturday night. He has heart, he has a will to win. He's faced multiple bits of adversity, and like I say, going back to that Seja fight, he was able to get up off the canvas and still come on to be able to deliver a really good knockout. So he still has that heart and that will to be able to get dropped, to be hurt, and then to come out and still be able to throw excited, high level kind of combinations where he's really damaging and really hurting, basically just like he's going back, to an earlier round and getting kind of his second wind to an extent. He's strong, he times uppercuts nicely, and that's something in which I've seen in some of his shots. He's explosive, he's definitely a very explosive fighter, and he's a pressure fighter for the most part. He's physically strong, but still relatively light on his feet, which is quite a good mix to have. A lot of fighters are physically strong and quite flat-footed. He's not. He has a nice mixture there. He has quite good catching counters as well, which is something which is, I think, underrated and not really talked about too much by Magsayo. And he definitely does have the fast hands to be able to deliver them counters and to cause that damage. Negatives about him, I think he can get caught lunging in and squaring up quite often, and he can be made to miss wildly. He doesn't really change up his hooks too much, so his opponents can kind of slip under them and get caught and be able to get out there without getting caught, and it can be made for him to miss wildly, if that makes sense. And then when he also tries to be a boxer and tries to fight at a mid-range, it's not always the best for him. I feel like it is better when he's explosive and in your face, and yes, that might be opening up more defensive vulnerabilities, but it is where he does his best work. Against head movers, I don't think he does the best, and Cuellar doesn't have awful movement, but it's not amazing. He does have his head on the line quite often, Magsayo. He can be caught at a jab. And that's when he got caught by Ray Vargas quite a lot with the jab. He can slow down, and that may be due to tiredness. Again, Ray Vargas, Figueroa, both of them fights, he slowed down. He blamed that on the weight, in which, from what I've seen, from what he said. So, we'll have to wait and see if he comes into this fight, now being on the big stage fighting at super featherweight, if we will be able to see a more fueled up into the later rounds type of Magsayo. But at the same time, he also could have been forced to slow down a bit due to body work, because both Figueroa and Vargas are very good body punchers and were really kind of wearing him down in that aspect of the fight. So maybe that's something in which Cuellar could go to. And I feel like he does, to an extent, fight opponents' fights. Again, when he fought he went toe-to-toe with Figueroa, which probably wasn't the best of ideas, but then he also went and fought at a bit of a range with Ray Vargas, and again, that's not really something in which I'd recommend, because of course that is going to be absolutely perfect for Ray Vargas to use his rangy limbs to be able to then keep you at a jab and catch you with a jab on a consistent basis. Cuellar as a fighter, I don't think he's got bad footwork. He perhaps might have a bit better footwork defensively than that of Magsayo. He's willing to be physical himself. Again, he's not the most physical, but he's willing to be. He's got good strong jab and good strong combinations. He waits for his moment, seemingly. It can sometimes result in him being a bit too patient, but at the same time, he's not being reckless. He's definitely more disciplined than that of Magsayo. He's got a good straight 1-2, and he can fight at a mid-range perhaps a bit better than Magsayo, but he can also fight in close and shorten up his shots nicely. And again, he can catch you coming in, so he could land similar shots to what Magsayo could, catching you coming in. He, again, I don't think won't be as sloppy and as wild, and maybe a slight bit more technical than that of Magsayo. But to speak negatives, I suppose he is more willing to take the back foot and invites that pressure a bit more, where I think Magsayo will be willing to take that and see that as an open invitation to be able to come forwards. He will try and fight off the ropes instead of using his movement, which isn't realistically what I'd recommend when you're fighting such a power punch in Magsayo. He is a bit of a slow starter, and that's really not going to go in your favour. You'd want to be, yes, that might help him into the later rounds, but it's not really what you want to be. You're probably going to be wanting to be very aware and fighting at a decent tempo, not going straight out into a war, but fighting at a decent tempo against somebody like Magsayo, who is going to be coming probably, all guns blazing into the earlier rounds. He can move quite far away when he's on the front foot and throwing. He'll, throw and then he'll jump quite far out of the way. So it means that he's kind of always wary and always respecting his opponents quite a lot, which isn't a bad thing, but may result in Magsayo, even if he gets put on the back foot, being able to get out of them positions quite easily. His hand speed isn't as good, and he doesn't seem to go through the gears that much. In his last performance, he seemingly kind of just fought at one gear the entirety of the time. Yes, that was maybe just due to the opponent being at a lower level, but I just don't feel like you can fight the whole kind of fight at the same gear against Magsayo and be able to win. And I do feel like he does headhunt a bit himself. Who do I think is going to win? Of course, this is fully vacant WBC Continental America's Super Featherweight title, if anybody was wondering. Who I think is going to win? Mark Magsayo, I think, is going to win via KO in round 5. I feel like this could be quite a brutal knockout, where perhaps I could see Magsayo going onto the back foot at some point from Cuellar's possible physicality, then Cuellar, like I say, taking too much of a step back, and then Magsayo being explosive, catching him off guard when he's being, the seemingly kind of defensive fighter, maybe playing possum to an extent, and then just, like I say, catching him off guard and really flattening him out. And just because it's not something in which Cuellar has had to deal with for a long time, and again, like I say, I feel like Magsayo is going to be there to deliver a statement performance, especially on the undercard of Manny Pacquiao. So again, like I say, I feel like it's going to be a knockout in round 5. And, I suppose to an extent that's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to see him going into the later rounds, because, I would be interested to see how he's performing them, but it will definitely set him up better for more big fights in which he's going to be wanting to take him back to a world level type of scene. Who he could fight next, Navarrete Suarez, they're seemingly going to have a rematch due to what happened with the whole cut incident and everything like that. So, the winner of that could go on to fight Magsayo for the WBO belt. Magsayo is ranked very highly in a lot of world kind of rankings, so it's very helpful for him. Hernandez could be a really good fight to then set up, a world title eliminator. That could be a great contest with two, still power punching fighters. Or, if he gets put in against O'Shaquie Foster, he's talked about how he wants to fight Foster, so that could be a good fight. Foster is always talked about having different fights, but hasn't seemingly got anything kind of set in stone for him next. So yeah, that could happen. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video. If you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.